All right? So my advice to you is that you shouldn't come. Don't come. Just stay in your home. Work for your country. Develop your country. And enjoy life. Enjoy life. All right? Just stay in your country, do what you're supposed to be doing, and enjoy life. Don't move. Don't come here if you can. If you can, don't come here. You see, some of the people that move from developing to developed countries are actually highly skilled, and some of them are wealthy, come from very wealthy middle-class families that can afford. Why don't you use that money to do something home? Why send your child overseas? It's the worst decision that you can make, to send your daughter or your son overseas. That's the worst thing you can do. If I'm you, if I'm a parent, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't take my son or daughter and send them overseas. In hindsight, the worst decision that I ever made was to come to Australia. And it's not like I'm poor or like I'm jobless. No, I'm not. But if I had another chance, I wouldn't have come to Australia. So if you ask me how to come, how to migrate, how to move here, I would tell you don't come. Just stay where you are. Okay? But if you really want to come, if you really want to come, there's several ways you can do that. You can come by boat. I talked about the boat earlier on. I remember when I had just migrated here in around 2011, 2012, 2013, there are a lot of people coming to Australia by boat, mainly from Sri Lanka, Palestine, Iran, Iraq. A lot of them were coming from by boat, and they're being smuggled in. But and a lot of them, some of them succeeded. They landed, they're brought in, they have to be processed. But that is the worst decision that you can make, because when you come to this country by boat, you'll most likely be locked up. I know people that have been locked up for so many years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and they can't leave. Now a lot of them want to leave, but they can't leave. They want to go, but they can't leave them to go. They can't leave them to go because things have changed. Situations have changed. You've been and you've been locked up for about 10, 15 years. Imagine if you came in this country in 2010 by boat and you are still in prison to date. That's almost probably 14 years. A lot of them were taken to Nauru. Is it Nauru in PNG? Nauru Island? You heard about the Nauru Island? The Supreme Court of Papua New Guinea had to pass a decision that the detention of migrants in that island was illegal. So don't make a mistake. Don't make a mistake coming by boat. Australia is a very small country. Only 23 million people, maybe 24 million. The borders are well guarded. You can only fly in, you can only fly out. It's almost impossible to sneak in through the oceans because your chances of not being detected is almost nothing. It's almost zero. Okay, so don't come by boat. The other way that a lot of Africans and migrants and Asians have come to this country is by seeking refuge. I know a lot of Sudanese, Ethiopians, Somalis came in the 90s and early 2000s, I think, when there was a lot of war in Sudan, for example. When there was war in Somalia in the early 90s, remember that? 91, 92, 93. And of course, Somalia is still unstable up to now. I was just reading, I think yesterday or today, some guy just went to the beach where the locals are chill and he detonated a bomb. That's insecurity. That's something that is enough to drive you out of your country. Just imagine if your daughter or son was killed in that detonation. So we have a lot of refugees here. Refugees from Palestine, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and a lot of other African countries. They've come here, they've settled here, but of course they have to be processed by the government. There is no shortcut. The other way you can come to Australia is by study. I know a lot of people, a lot of young Africans, especially Kenyans, have come to this country through study. They used to work for me in my food van. A lot of them used to work for me in my food van. But they have to pay for their fees to come and settle here and to come and study and settle here in this country. You have to apply. There are visas that you have to use. You must apply. You must be accepted. You must do all the assessments. And then they will let you come in and study. And of course, when you're here, you can change the course. And after you finish your studies, you can apply to stay. And work. But even before you finish, you can still work. Australia allows you to work. But there is a downside. Recently, visa applications have changed. The government has changed the visa, completely overhauled the visa, because there was a lot of noise that they had allowed in a lot of people to come into the country. So what they did was to change the visa, which was relaxed around the COVID time. So that is the main way that a lot of foreigners can come to this country. Just look for Home Affairs website, look for the different types of visas, and make an application. As simple as that. It's not automatic that you'll be taken, but you stand a high chance of being taken, of being allowed to come here if you have the money. And then there's work visa. You can also come at the skilled migration program. especially if you're a medic, a doctor, a nurse, chef, accountant. Those are skill sets that are in demand. You can apply from wherever you are and you can be taken. And most likely, they prefer, most cases, they prefer taking people from countries that they know and countries that fall within the region, the Asia Pacific region. Countries like India, China, Indonesia, Nepal, because they have business relationships with these countries. They don't have much business relationship with Uganda or with Tanzania. These countries are in the region. They fall under the APEC. They have business relationships, they have bilateral relationships, they have military relationships. So it's most likely that they will accept people from the Asia region to come and work. But that is not limited to Asia. The highest number of people that actually migrate to this country are people from the UK, United Kingdom. That's the highest number of people. Almost every year, we have 150,000 British people coming to settle, migrating to this country. 150,000. So they look at other countries like Canada, UK, Europe generally, maybe South Africa, Kenya, maybe. But that is a very hard visa to go through unless maybe you're a doctor or a nurse. Those are skill sets that are highly, highly in demand. And you have to know that your academic papers may not be accepted here. You might be a doctor wherever you are, in Africa, Kenya, but when you come here, they're not going to accept your academic papers. But if you come from the UK when you're a doctor, most likely you will work here as a doctor. The same applies with India, because they've had a good relationship with India for quite a bit of time. And then you can also come in this country for business. You can come here for business purposes. If you have your money, you're rich, you want to start up a business, you are an entrepreneur, maybe IT, education consultant, a small business entrepreneur, like you want to set up a shop, a food business. We have a lot of people like that, especially from Asia. A lot of entrepreneurs here in this country. They brought in their money, they've set up businesses, and they've settled. We have a lot of Chinese, because of the difficulty in speaking English, it's always hard for them to get work. When I say work, I mean formal employment, unless they studied in this country, they speak some English. It's easier for them. But without that, they have to bring in their own money, set up shops, set up restaurants. Now, with Africans, very few people have money. Very few people have the ability to support themselves. I'm not saying that Africans are generally poor, but I think that very few people would bring more than $100,000 just to settle in and set up business in this country, when they can use that money in their own countries to settle there and run business there. So if you have money and you are an entrepreneur, you can get a business visa, settle in here, set up yourself, and enjoy Australia. And finally is what I think I started with. You can come to Australia through a relationship. I know a lot of people that have come into this country through a marriage or de facto visas. I personally came through a de facto relationship visa. I don't remember the visa number, but because that was like 2010 when we first applied. But I applied from East Timor. I wasn't here when I applied. I applied from East Timor because that is where I was working. There was an embassy there in Dili, East Timor. I made the application. My application was assessed from there as I was working. And then finally I was accepted. It didn't take long for me to be accepted. So in, I think, around November 2010, after about 4 or 5 months, I was accepted. I came over to Australia after, I think, 1 year. Because at that time when I was accepted, I had a contract. And my contract was to expire in March of 2011. So I had to continue with that work until I finished. And when I finished, my then boss, my East Timorese boss, told me, "Oh, Dennis, please don't go to Australia. We have a lot of East Timorese that have been there. This is what has happened to them. Just stay here. If you want more money, I'm going to add you more money. How much do you want?" I told him I want $12,000 per month. 12,000 meaning American dollars per month. He said, "Oh, okay, we can negotiate. We can see." So he wanted to increase my salary as a consultant working for his organization. But my girlfriend and I had already agreed that I'll be moving down here. So when I left East Timor in March, I think in April of 2011, I traveled back home because I had my parents there. Both my mom and my dad were still there. And I wanted to see them. I'd been overseas for a long period of time. So I stayed in Uganda up to July. And then after I had settled, I had rested a little bit, I decided to come to Australia on the 1st of July 2011. It was during winter. It was very, very cold. Very, very cold. I still remember when I got out of Melbourne airport, I felt very, very cold. The first thing that hit me when I stepped out, the first thing that hit me when I stepped out of the airport was the cold. It took me by surprise. I didn't expect Australia to be very, very cold, but it was. It was. Anyway, to summarize, you can come to Australia by boat. You can come to Australia through a relationship. You can obtain a work visa. You can obtain a study visa. You can also obtain a business visa. Australia is a beautiful country, big country. This one is a subcontinent, huge. To fly from one region to another would take probably about 6 hours. Say, for example, if you fly from Darwin, the Northern Territory, northern tip of Australia, Darwin, and you're flying to Tasmania. I think it would take you about 4 hours to get from Darwin to Tasmania, maybe 5 hours, who knows? It could take you 5 hours. Because to fly from Alice Springs, where I am now, to Melbourne, it takes 2.5 hours. Non-stop. 2.5 hours. So think about from Darwin to Hobart. It's either 5, could be 5 to 6 hours. So there are a lot of opportunities in this country for migrants. There are lots of jobs compared to the population. Population is low. The economy is strong. The country is politically stable. And of course is wealthy. There's money here, there's wealth here. When I talk about wealth, I mean wealth in the hands of the white Australians. Those are people that have the money. And probably Asians. Most people are just go to work. They don't own companies. They go to work and they work and get paid. But if you ask me whether you should come here, my answer would be no. Stay in your home, enjoy your country, wherever you could be. Build your country. That's my advice to you. Anyway, thanks very much for listening. And if you've not liked my video, commented, let me know what you think. Do you think that what I've said is okay, or do you have any other views? Don't you like what I've said? That's totally fine. All right. If you don't like it, let me know in the comments below. If you like it and you think that what I've given you is good for you, well, give me some love. I'll see you soon. Ciao, bambino.